Welcome to ForcesOfFlight.com. This is your host, Dustin Drews. Today we'll be covering pilot reference materials. Guys, for my voice in this video, I've been fighting a chest cold that just won't leave me alone. So let's get into it. Pilot reference materials. What are they? Well, they are reference materials that not only keep us safe, but they also keep us legal. What are the different types? Well, there's a whole bunch of different types. Some are related to weather, some are related to the aircraft, some are related to how to fly an aircraft, and some are related to the laws. So we're going to cover all the different types. And we'll also go over, in my opinion, which ones you will need. This list of reference materials is the same list I would give my friend, my wife, or my brother on what they will need to become a private pilot. The AIRMAN Certification Standards for Private Pilots, commonly referred to as the ACS by your instructors or anybody else in aviation. What this is a blueprint designed by the FAA for both the private pilot and the designated pilot examiner, commonly referred to as the DPE. This is what they use and what you can expect to be quizzed on during your check ride. It also list out all the different maneuvers you need to know when going for your rating as a private pilot. So I strongly encourage to get a hard copy of this. So there's two ways to do that. One, you can go out and buy it, obviously, or you can go to the FAA website and download it. Since this is an FAA document, they allow you to download them as a PDF and print them off for free. This document is very important. It lists out everything that you need to know and what you can expect to be asked of on your check ride when you go for your private pilot certificate. So the ASA Private Pilot Test Prep book, or I will refer it to as the ACS Study Guide. What ASA did is they went to the ACS and they made a study guide containing all the information you need to know to become a private pilot. The nice thing about this book is the questions are listed exactly as you will find them on the FAA written test, and below the questions they write a paragraph or description of why it's this way to explain what they're talking about and where you can find the information. Using this book, it allowed me to get a 100% on my FAA written knowledge test, and it helped me leaps and bounds preparing for my FAA check ride with the DPE. For AIM, okay, this book is like the aviation Bible. Everything you can or can't do in an airplane legally is listed out in this thing. It's broken up into a whole bunch of different parts. You got like part 43, part 61, part 67, part 91. These are different parts of the FAR. The FAR is Federal Aviation Regulations. And then you also, in this book, in the back, have a section called the AIM. Now what the AIM is the Aviation Information Manual. Basically, it's a basic guide, or it's referenced as a guide through aviation. This book it's over 1,000 pages long. I think it's close to 1,800 pages. It's about 2.5 inches thick, and it's going to be a requirement on your to get your private pilot certificate. They're not very expensive. They're $10-15. You can download them online, but your designated pilot examiner is going to want to see your FAR AIM tabbed out with all the different sections, so he knows you know how to look it up. So this book is the Aviation Bible. You're going to have one. Several different companies produce them. Jeppesen and ASA are the most popular. I prefer the ASA version. The pages are more built of higher quality, and the print's a little larger so I can read it better. So definitely pick up a FAR AIM. They are produced every year. Make sure you get one for the most current year available. And then also buy some tabs so you know how to tab it out. So this is the FAR AIM. It's two different books. The FAR is the laws. The AIM is the Aeronautical Information Manual that tells you how to do anything that's involved with aviation. So the Airplane Flying Handbook, it is what it is. It's a book that's written to teach you how to fly an airplane by reading a manual. Everything you can think of is covered in this book on how to fly an airplane. They talk about different flaps. They talk about how to read the gauges. They talk about different maneuvers. Basically, it's a dummy's guide on how to fly an airplane via a book. This is an FAA document. You can download it for free. I strongly encourage you to buy the written copy. Be careful when you buy the written copy. Make sure you get an ASA version. There's some off-breed people that are making it that the pictures aren't in color and the pages are like toilet paper. So make sure you get a high-quality airplane flying handbook. This is an FAA written material, so you can download it for free. And since it's produced by the FAA, you can use it to answer questions in your check ride. So definitely get one of these. Strongly recommend getting one hard copy. And I also recommend downloading one. The glossary in the back to look stuff up is very poor. So if you have a PDF version also to go with your written version, if you can't find something, you can type it in the PDF version and look it up quicker instead of digging through the book. But also, just like your FAR AIM, make sure you tag it out and make sure you know how to find stuff in this book, because you will need to reference it in both your FAA written knowledge and your oral and your practical tests on how to perform maneuvers. So this is the Airplane Flying Handbook. Know it inside and out. So the PHAK, okay, or the Pilot's Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge. This book, I don't think I've ever heard anybody call it the Pilot's Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge. So when you're looking for it online or whatever, just type in PHAK, or if that doesn't come up, type in Pilot's Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge. It is an FAA document, so you can use it on your check ride, and you can download it for free as a PDF. Just like the Airplane Flying Handbook, I strongly recommend downloading it so you can look stuff up via PDF and having a hard copy and tabbing out the stuff you need to know. Now this book is like an in-depth version of the quirks of aviation, like what makes an airplane fly, how does an engine run, what is magnetic deviation, what is magnetic variation, how does a GPS work, what is WAS, what is RAIM, what is a VOR. All these things are covered in the Pilot's Handbook of Aeronautical Information. So just like the Airplane Flying Handbook, it's very dry to read. So I kind of use it as a reference material for myself. It's required. Make sure you get a written copy and make sure you download it and make sure you know it inside and out. You're gonna reference it a lot in your aviation career. Aerodynamics for naval aviators. Okay, this is like the Bible of what makes airplanes fly. It's tough to read, it's dry, but if you need to know what makes an airplane fly, or what wind does to an airplane, or what is a stall, or what is a spin, it's all covered in here. I don't know if you can download this one online. I believe you can, but I think the book's 10, 15 bucks. They don't update it very often. It's an old book, so I recommend buying it just for reference material so you know what makes an airplane fly. Truthfully, you wouldn't have to have this as a private pilot. There's enough information in the PHAK to get you through your test. But if you're like me and you struggle when something's not written out, like black and white, I use this to help further explain something so I understand it. So it's an optional book. If you find yourself struggling with aerodynamics, you might want to pick this up to further in-depth your knowledge of it. Aviation Weather Advisory Circular. Okay, this is the first time we've talked about advisory circulars. An advisory circular is it's kind of a mini handbook that the FAA sends out that covers a topic or a task or something more in depth, kind of like a mini manual on a certain subject. And weather is a big deal for pilots. If you do not know weather, like me, I struggled with weather, you need to start learning it now because it'll be a large portion of every check ride you take. So the Aviation Weather Circular is just a weather manual for aviation. I strongly recommend you getting it, become familiar with it. It'll definitely help you pass your written and your oral test. Expect plenty of weather questions on both. So this is a book. It's no fun to read. It is an advisory circular. Since it is an FAA advisory circular, you can download it for free, but I strongly encourage you get both the written manual and download the PDF and become familiar with it. Aviation Weather Services Advisory Circular. So what this is this is a manual that tells you where you can get aviation weather services. What center can give you, what flight services can give you, what websites are good, what websites are not good, what are legal, what are not legal. You can download this. I would just download this one and use it as a reference. I don't think I've ever seen it printed in any of the books or any of the magazines, but this is just a more in-depth version of what the AIM gives you on aviation weather services that are available to pilots. So the Aircraft Weight and Balance Handbook. This is an FAA document. You can download it for free. This is a book that's kind of a manual on how to do the weight and balance on any airplane. The reason I wouldn't buy this book is once you kind of understand weight and balance and how to use all the different charts in the POHs or the pilot's operating handbooks and how to do the math on finding the moment and knowing what the reference datum line is and all this stuff, you won't have to use it very often. But it's a good book to download, so when you're trying to figure out weight and balance or trying to understand it, that you have a reference to go to. So this is the Aircraft Weight and Balance Handbook. It's just a reference material. I would download it, get it on a PDF, so you can reference it when you're trying to figure out how weight and balance works in an airplane. You will have to know weight and balance inside and out. Expect to know that on your FAA written test and when you do your private pilot check ride with the designated pilot examiner. You will have to go through a weight and balance with him, and he'll change some numbers around, and you'll have to tell him if you're still within limits or you're out of limits. So just a heads up on that for future reference. So the private pilot oral exam guide. Okay, now the oral portion of your check ride is all scenario based. Okay, he's going to say, we're going to write me a flight plan. We're going to go fly here. So that's your scenario, and he's going to ask you questions about the flight. If you encounter weather, your weight and balance, what you need to fly. Say we got some frost on the wings. So what the private pilot oral exam guide does, it's about, 50 or 60 different questions that the DPE can ask you, and it kind of gets you in the mindset on how to answer them. So this book isn't an FAA document. You can't use it for a reference or anything like that, but it puts you in a mindset of what you can expect the DPE to ask you and what kind of answer he's looking for. So it's kind of a check and balance to get you in the mindset of what you can expect on your check ride. I recommend it. They're not very expensive, 10, 15 bucks. It just helps you get in the mindset of the questions you're going to receive and how you should answer the questions back to the DPE. The POH, or Pilot's Operating Handbook. Everybody calls it the POH. Just know when they say POH, they're referring to the Pilot's Operating Handbook. What this is this is like the instruction manual for your airplane. It talks about all your V speeds. It tells you your service limit. It covers your weight and balance. It covers your takeoff distances. everything that you need to know to operate your airplane, specifically to that airplane, is covered in the POH. So when you're on your check ride, the DPE is going to ask you questions, and you might not know them off your top of your head, like what is VX for an airplane? We're taking off this runway. Are you sure the runway is long enough? That's all covered in the POH. So you're going to need to get a POH. You can download them for most planes, but I strongly encourage just getting the money, spending the money for the POH for the airplane you plan on taking your check ride in. Make sure if you're using like a 172, right? They got the A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, all these different models of 172. Make sure the POH that you're using for your check ride matches the plane that you're taking your check ride in. That's an easy way to fail a check ride. Say you're taking your check ride in a Mike model and your POH is for a Sierra model. None of the information matches. So just make sure you got the right POH for the plane you're using. Make sure you know the POH inside and out. And just like the FAR aim, make sure you tabulate all the different sections of it. You gotta have it for your check ride type thing. There's no way around it. So everything explained for the professional pilot. Well, the book's kind of deceiving because it's everything explained for every pilot. What this book does is they take every aircraft or pilot topic you can think of, and they gave a definition in plain English, just like the book says. Dummy style, like Dustin style. And then, on top of that, they give the definition of everything they're explaining, and then they reference every advisory circular, the FARs, the Aviation Information Manual, the PHAK, and the Airplane Flying Handbook on where they got the information and how they translated it. This book is extremely, extremely helpful for everything you could think of on becoming a pilot. They cover how to talk on the radios, and then they reference the Aviation Information Manual about radios. They talk about weather. They talk about fronts. They talk about different airspeeds. You name it, it is covered in this book. It's about 1.5 inches thick. This book is around $50. I don't think you can get by without it, personally. It saved me so much time in looking stuff up because they went and dug through it and found all the information and then gave you references to all the different FAA documents that support it. So I strongly encourage everybody getting this Everything Explained for the Professional Pilot book. It'll save you so much time, and it'll dumb stuff down so easy that even I can explain it. So strongly encourage this book. $50 on Amazon. Make sure you get the most recent version. I think the most recent version is version 13, but that's updated quite often, so make sure you stay on top of it. So visual flight rules sectional. Okay, this is your roadmap, right, to the sky. It covers everything you need to know going to and from different airports under visual flight rules. That's what VFR stands for. You very rarely will hear it called the VFR sectional. Most times people just say, hey, this is it. Where's it at on the sectional? So this covers everything from the different airspaces, right? It covers where every VOR is. It covers every airport. Every different airport is different colored. Every different color means something. The airspaces, different circles, different color circles mean different things. It tells you where your wildlife areas are. It covers where your military operations areas are. It covers everything you can think of to keep you out of trouble. It shows you, say there's a class Delta airspace, you got to have permission to enter Delta airspace. So it shows you where they're at. It shows you the different landmarks so you can ID them. You have to know the sectionals inside and out. You have to know how to plot on a sectional using a plotter. So instead of going out and buying ForeFlight and using ForeFlight as your reference for your sectionals, I strongly encourage you to do everything on paper. The reason I say this, most DPEs, designated pilot examiners, hate seeing private pilots using ForeFlight. They're going to ask you more questions if you use ForeFlight or some of these online apps for your flight planning than they would if you just got out a piece of in that sectional and opened it up and showed them how you're getting from here to there. Now, with that being said, on your sectional, there's going to have all these symbols and all these markings. Everything means something. So on your sectional, there's going to be a little cheat sheet on the back or an information key, just like a roadmap. Get an old one, cut out all them symbols, and make flashcards up. All the symbols are just going to be mumbo jumbo in the beginning. But on your check ride, the DP is going to open it up and he's going to say, hey, what's this line mean? Where does this airspace end? Where does it begin? So you need to know how to use these sectionals and what everything means on them. Now, if you bring your own sectional to the check ride and he throws you a curveball, what this means, yeah, you can look it up in the back as an open book. But if he points at a VOR or if he points at an airport and it's blue, you better know what it means. So, know them inside and out, study them. It's going to be a requirement. Don't use ForeFlight, use paper. It'll be a lot easier in the long run when you switch over to ForeFlight, and it'll save you a lot of trouble on your check ride, because once they see ForeFlight, you really start digging. Chart supplement, sometimes referred to as the Airport Facility Directory or AFD. The older your CFI is, or the older the pilot is, the more they refer to them as the AFD. They currently changed them to this chart supplement because it supplements the chart, the VFR sectional. I think it makes more sense calling them the AFD. The reason being, it is a directory and it tells you what each facility has. So Airport Facility Directory makes more sense than chart supplement to me. So what can you find in a chart supplement? Basically, a chart supplement covers everything you need to know about the airport you're going to. It includes a runway diagram. It tells you the runway elevation. It gives you the runway lengths. It gives you your Unicom frequency, your ATIS frequency. All that stuff is covered, all your frequencies. Say the runway you're going to is known to have a lot of deer on it, or geese flying around, or some quirky thing. That is all found and listed out in the airport chart or the chart supplement. Now, you have to have one of these for your check ride. The reason being is the DP is going to ask you questions about the airport that he made up for you to go to. So make sure you have it tabbed out. Make sure you study the airport and explain to him using the chart supplement everything about the airport. Also, in the chart supplements, there is a section on there on how to report a PIREP. So they got a lot of other little neat stuff in there that's helpful to pilots. Make sure you have one. Make sure it's tabbed out. Make sure you know how to use one. I understand how people learn stuff is not black and white. There's a lot of gray involved, just like this picture. But I want to make sure I emphasize that this list of books is not trying to sell you anything or try and talk you into something that you don't need. This list is something I compiled to give to my friends, my family, other people that I know that want to become a pilot. My mentor, Terry Haggart, told me that becoming a pilot's 90% book work and 10% flying, and I think Terry's wrong. I think it's closer to 98% book work and 2% flying. But this list of books will help you become a private pilot, a commercial pilot, instrument rated pilot. Every rating comes from the books that are listed on this slide. So I hope this gets you guys on the right track. I don't want you guys to go out there and spend a ton of money on stuff that you don't need just because you got a snazzy salesman or a good website trying to talk into it. So look forward to your guys' comments. Please subscribe if you have time, and look forward to the next one. Dustin out.